And we're off. Hi, gang. We're coming to you live after a win. Not joking. Miami Dolphins finally get their second win of the season with a big blowout of the Atlanta Falcons on this Sunday afternoon, week 8, 34-10 win. And we all knew this was coming. Or did we?
Yeah, there's no proof otherwise, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I had in my Miami Dolphins on SI.com complete preview that you should check out every week for free, written content. I had the Dolphins losing 23-20. I did think they were going to make it a game and hang in there. I thought they would come up short at the end, and instead they came up big from beginning to end. Before we dive into it, with Dante Collinelli, Deputy Editor of Miami Dolphins on SI. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Check out the audio version of the podcast, wherever you get your audio podcasts. And last but certainly not least, please check out the written content at Miami Dolphins on SI.com. We already have 7 stories, I believe it is, from Sunday, probably a couple more to come after we get done with this podcast over here. So, again, great win, start to finish, completely dominating. I don't know if we want to dive into it right away. It's one game, unfortunately. It only gets the Dolphins to 2-6. And I know there's some fans already out there who are like, sucks that they won because they heard their draft position. And I don't know. Dante, give me some thoughts over here before we dive into it.
Well, for those people, the Jets also won today, so technically didn't lose a game there. So there you go. Okay. And I think maybe one of the most complete performances of the McDaniel era as far as all 3 phases are concerned. Like, Jake Bailey continues to be very good as a punter. Riley Patterson, perfect on extra points and field goals. Don't think they gave up any big returns off the top of my head either. Special teams is great. I mean, about as good of a defensive performance as you could possibly ask for. The only Falcons touchdown comes in complete garbage time. I know it's Kirk Cousins. They didn't have Drake London, whatever. You play the offense that's in front of you when you're the defense. And look, the Dolphins got steamrolled by a backup running back earlier this year. So it wasn't exactly a given that they're going to show up against backups in this game. And then offensively, I just executed really well. Good execution, not a lot of penalties, efficient. You ran the football. You tried some new things. You had some success. Tua didn't turn the ball over. Hit some middle of the field throws. About as good of a performance you could ask for from every phase of the game, and that's what's been missing this year.
It was on offense more than anything else. It was an immaculate performance in terms of cleanliness. It was clean. There were a couple of false start penalties on Patrick Paul. No biggie. I don't recall seeing a holding penalty on offense. No turnovers, because I know, and I'm on social media, like, everybody's going nuts about how great the running game was. It was very, very efficient. It wasn't Denver circa 2023, because, do you know if I told you the Dolphins averaged 3.8 yards per carry in this game and it was their second lowest rushing average of the season, would that make you go, wow, really? It didn't look that way because, again, they were very efficient. There weren't a lot of negative plays, and they converted for the most part on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 in those short yardage situations. But it wasn't, again, I don't think it was necessarily dynamic, which is why I said on Twitter, and I got pushback, shocker, that to me this game was more than anything else about the defense and how it completely annihilated the Falcons. And the kudos on making Bijan Robinson an absolute non-factor. In fact, a negative factor for the Falcons, because he was like 8 for 22 plus a fumble at a time when the Falcons looked like maybe they're getting back in the game early in the second half on the first drive, threatening to cut into the Dolphins 17-3 lead. But offensively, again, very efficient. Tua was very, very sharp. Throw the touch to Malik Washington for this second of 4 touchdowns. That was an absolute beauty. Best throw of the season, maybe, considering the circumstances. Scrambling to his left, and he threw up like a dart that was like, didn't have exactly a very, very wide window. So major props for that. But yeah, it was a very, very, very efficient.
Yeah, I think the reason, because you follow me on Twitter, right? Like, I was very excited about the run game. I think for me, it was less about the results and more about the process of what this showed from an adjustments perspective. I think one of the things that I've personally been frustrated with during the Mike McDaniel era is the continuation of just banging your head into the same wall consistently from a play calling perspective, from a personnel perspective, from the inability to just stick with the running game a bit, even if you're only getting 3.8 yards a carry, and kind of understanding what kind of game you're playing and being able to work within yourself and just try some new stuff. They ran more gap power stuff this week than usual. That was good. They brought in Daniel Brunskill as a sixth offensive lineman for, I think it ended up being like 13 plays. Yeah. Neat package. And I'm a little worried about his comments after the game. He basically said it was only because Julian Hill was out, but whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it on Thursday. For me, it was more about the process than the results in the running game. It was good to just see them try something different, have an actual adjustment, and then stick to it. Even when they were getting a few negative yard runs, they got into 2nd and 12 a couple of times, 2nd and 13 a couple of times, and they ran the ball still. And they got Achane got a couple 8-9 yard chunk runs. Gordon had a 12-yard run on like 2nd and 12 later in the game as well. So it was just, for me, it was about the process, less about the yards per carry, the overall yardage, like whatever it was. The game plan in this game, they understood the assignment. Unlike in Cleveland, that was a game to me where, again, 3.8 yards per carry was okay in that game, and the Dolphins just refused to accept that. Today they did, and I think it helped them. And obviously, the defense was great. I mean, they gave up 3 points in this game to the Falcons. I know this final score says 10. Last touchdown was in total garbage time. You got a stellar performance from Jordan Brooks. You had good coverage on the back end, a lot of contested Kirk Cousins throws. Now, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Kirk could not put any mustard on the ball to save his life. But the defense did its job. They covered the guys they had to cover. They were a bunch of PBUs, good plays. I think up front, you saw a decent bit of pressure. Jalen Phillips saw a lot of success rushing from the interior, which was neat. I thought Kenneth Grant had some good push in that game. I thought Chop Robinson had a couple flash plays where he got into the backfield quickly, even if he didn't get home. So all around, just a really good effort on defense. I think offensively, it's just encouraging to see them make some actual adjustments, try some things that they haven't tried before. That's what matters to me, less than how many yards per carry they ended up averaging. No,
I agree. And the ability to stick to the run always is related to the game circumstances. And I think the Dolphins could see pretty clearly early on that they were on point defensively. We didn't see a ton of missed tackles. Number one, they were getting pressure from the start pretty consistently on Cousins. And the other part, I didn't know this, and shame on me for not knowing this. Cousins didn't play single down in the preseason. Him and Penix didn't play single down in the preseason, which to me is weird, especially for Cousins, who you know is going to be your number 2. I guess they didn't want him to get hurt because they were hoping to trade him maybe. But holy crap, he looked like woof.
He looked really bad. And I did not have high expectations coming into the game, and he did not meet those.
I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be this bad. And to me, the play, it was like may have been their second series.
He sailed a throw.
He sailed the throw where he has somebody wide open, like 15 yards downfield on third down, and he completely sailed the throw. And that it was like, oh, okay, woof. And outside of that, he accomplished nothing. But it does. I don't want to take anything away from what the Dolphins did. They were Jordan Brooks was excellent. And I wrote a story on the website a couple of weeks ago where Jordan Brooks was leading the NFL in tackles, which was great, except a lot of them were 6-7 yards downfield, which not so good. Today, I think he had like 3 TFLs and a sack on a play. By the way, great design. It wasn't just him. It was Iffy also coming in from the outside, and the back was left who to block either one of them. Winds up, he didn't block either one of them, and Jordan Brooks got to Cousins first. So that was well done. And again, not that it was a major factor in this game, but Jake Bailey with the punting again, it's like always helping the Dolphins with. And this is like, and I put this on social media. Like that term, complementary football. If your defense is getting 7 sacks and you're rushing for 250 yards and you're getting a 50-yard kickoff return, to me, that's not my definition of playing complementary football. That means you're kicking ass in every phase. Complementary football, and I go back maybe before your time, There was a 2010 game, I think it was. Dolphins won 10-6 against the Jets, where their offense was doing nothing except they weren't turning the ball over, and they were getting 1 or 2 first down every drive. And then Brandon Fields had the game of all games as a punter, and the Jets would start every drive like at their 5-yard line. And eventually the Dolphins wound up creeping closer and closer every time with the field position, gaining a couple yards, won the game like 10-6 with like 135 yards offensively. Except that, again, they were working with the field position. That, to me, is a definitive complementary football. What the Dolphins did today is they kicked ass in every phase. You want to call that complementary football? Sure, we can go with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Whatever. I don't care what you call it. It was a complete performance. We'll call it that. All 3 phases of the game were great. I mean, I don't know about you, but like I didn't have high expectations for Kirk Cousins specifically, but like the Falcons in general just looked lifeless. Like I just like
there was. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but there's like a Twitter account that's devoted to the Falcons that's calling for Raheem Morris's head after this game. That's how bad it was.
I mean, if you're on the Falcons side of it, right, you come into this game, you're still in the hunt in your division. The Dolphins are reeling. The vibes could not be worse in South Florida. They're coming into your building and you lose 34-10. Like, yeah, I kind of get it. So, I mean, that was surprising, but credit to the Dolphins. I mean, they've dealt with a lot of crap this year, and it's been well-earned crap, mind you. I don't think that anyone was wrong to give them crap, given that they were 1-6 and were playing terribly. But they showed a lot of fight in this game. They came out. They were the more energetic team. They were the faster team. They were the more well-prepared team. Obviously, they were also the healthier team, which certainly helps. It's a factor. But I just think it's a really good showing. I think it tells you a lot about and I'll eat crow a bit. I wrote a column last week after the game where Mike McDaniel said, I think we're better than this, blah, blah, blah. And my whole point was, I don't think you're better than this because you haven't been better than this. They showed that today. And it's only one game, and we can get into that. But they deserve a ton of credit in all 3 phases. I thought the game plan offensively was very good. I thought the game plan defensively was very good. And then this was probably the best execution from no penalties, no turnovers, no silly, ridiculous, running into the punter on 3rd and forever, plays. So good stuff all around. I think if you're going to build off of it, you get a nice quick turnaround here to just kind of build that momentum and keep it going for a home game against the Ravens.
Yeah, I was under my thought was the Dolphins were not as bad as their record would indicate, or how they played against Cleveland. And to me, it was like an avalanche of bad circumstances with Cleveland. And they're not nearly as good as they showed today. Let's not kid ourselves. And it's still an extraordinarily long road to the playoffs, and they're still more than likely not making the playoffs. Could they make a run? Maybe, possibly. I mean, the Ravens beat Chicago today. Wasn't an overwhelming performance, but it was with Tyler Stone probably at quarterback. And what did they have him do? I think I saw the numbers. It's basically a lot of completions, but not a whole lot of yardage. Lamar Jackson's probably going to be back on Thursday night. That's a whole different set of complications that come with facing him. But this is where the Dolphins have to be offensively, and not surprised in the least by Tua's performance, because I think I might have said that what we saw against Cleveland, that's not what we've seen from him the whole year. He's had some decent performances. He's come up short a couple of times down the stretch, but his body of work overall for the season has not been anywhere near what some of the Tua detractors would have you believe. Just like probably his performance today wasn't to the level that a lot of some of his supporters would tell you, like, 4 touchdowns and all that. He was a difference in the game. No, but when things around the team are working well, you can count on Tua to get the job done and to deliver the ball, which is what he did today. He was very, very good. That pass to Malik Washington I mentioned, he had a beautiful throw again. Also to Nick Westbrook-Akine, where it floated over a defender. It was a beautiful throw. So he played great. If the circumstances around him are good, he is more than often than not going to deliver. So this notion that Quinn Ewers needs to be looked at some point in the season, once the Dolphins are out of playoff contention, and with every win that's going to get delayed, and who knows how long the Dolphins can carry this.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion on Tua this year has just been, I think there's been a small regression, generally speaking, from where he's been, but I don't think it's been like anything terrible. I think if you ask me to name the top 5 reasons the team is 2-6. I'm not even sure he'd qualify, just given if you want to talk big picture about why the offense is the way that it is, that's a different conversation. If you're looking at the micro of what's wrong with the team this year and this 8 games and why are they 2-6, I don't know that Tua is has ever been one of the top issues for me outside of last week against the Browns where he was just dreadful, right? And I think you just I agree with you. I certainly did not think that was going to be the Tua that we got all year. I've never been of the opinion that he's some terrible quarterback. My opinion on Tua has always been that he's good, nothing more, nothing less. And I think you saw that today. He was good, nothing more, nothing less. And then that's where the Dolphins are. That's where they're going to be at with him. I think there were a couple throws in this game that I felt like he missed. The ball floated on him a bit, pushing it outside the numbers. But like that's just kind of is what it is this year. I think, I was happy to see the middle of the field stuff come back. The throw that you mentioned to Westbrook-Akine was really good. He had obviously the touchdown to Waddle was a good rip on an in-breaker. And then he had another one earlier in the game as well. The one where they kicked the field goal after they got the really good field position. The first play was a rip to Waddle across the middle, which was really good. So it was good to see that stuff come back. I think at this point, we've seen enough of Tua. We know what he is and what he's not. I still see the same limitations. I still see the same strengths. I think it is what it is at this point. The Dolphins are going to have to figure out a way to get more games like they got today around him, as opposed to the one that they got last week around him in Cleveland. And go for it.
And I'm with you on there. Like he was nowhere near the Dolphins' biggest issue in the first 7 games of the regular season, nor do I think he was the biggest reason they won today. As I said on social media, to me, number one, above and beyond everything else, was the defense that won this game. 2, we can say, again, the cleanliness of the offensive operation to me
was great. Yeah, it was great.
That includes running the ball, controlling the clock. Because somebody, well, the running game helps you control the clock. Yeah, producing 3 and outs on defense also helps you control the clock. It works both ways. So this was the most lopsided victory the Dolphins had since. Any idea? I tweeted it. You're not following my tweet. 30-0 against the Jets in 2020.
I was about to say, I remember they shut out the Jets. I did not remember the year, though.
Yep. And for those old enough who have followed the Dolphins long enough to remember, and when I'm going to go back 14 years, this game reminded me a lot of 2011. The Dolphins started off 0-7, if you recall. Chad Henne was a starting quarterback at the start of the season, got injured early on. Matt Moore came in to replace him. They were 0-7 to go. They were going to go play at Cleveland. At Kansas City. Kansas City was 4-3 at the time, and the Dolphins won that game 31-3. And then they went on a little bit of a mini run, not nearly enough to even become relevant for playoff contention, but they started playing better. And this game today kind of felt a little bit the same way, where by all logic, if you looked at the records going to this game, you'd figure the Falcons were gonna spank them. And as we saw, that certainly was not the case. What it means for the future, who knows? Another big story, obviously, we talked about Tua. He woke up with his eye swollen, left eye swollen. If you saw the game, they were talking about it quite a bit. So after the game, Tua said he never could pinpoint what it was. He thought maybe a sty or something, an allergic reaction to something. That turned out to be not the case. Maybe they'll find out more. Played with a visor for the first time, I think he mentioned, since his high school days. Obviously didn't affect him. Also, the protection for the most part was good. There are a couple of times we had pressure on him. He did get sacked once on a play where, again, that's bad miscommunication or bad recognition of where the blitz is coming from, because Brian Alford was it Robert Alford, I think. Clear path between Cole Strange and Larry Borum to Tua. That should not happen. But for the most part, pretty good. The run blocking for the most part was pretty good. Frank Smith was on the sidelines this week after being in the booth for the first 7 games. My guess, coaches being as superstitious as they are, whether or not it played a role in the Dolphins' success in this game, damn well he's going to be on the sideline Thursday night when the Dolphins face the Ravens.
That's right. Yes, we do know that for sure. Everyone was asked about it after the game. They just said, basic coach speak and players speak answers. So, I mean, kind of reading into Mike McDaniel's comments, to me, it seemed like a they were hoping it would help iron out the offensive operation more than anything, that his communication would just kind of help with having the right people on the field at the right time in a timely manner. That's me reading into it. Mike didn't really say that, but he kind of said that. He talked around it a bit. But yeah, I agree with you. I think, very superstitious. He'll be on the sideline on Thursday, and he'll be on the sideline for as long as they keep winning, would be my guess.
without question. And of course, this is where we look back, and this is something else we can discuss maybe at some other time. But since we're here, why not? You look back at 2021, which Tua referenced earlier this week or after the game against Cleveland, where the Dolphins were not 1-6, they were 1-7, but they went on a 7-game winning streak, which included a Thursday night win against the Baltimore Ravens, ironically. And if you look past that, and then they got Buffalo at home, it's not going to be easy. Buffalo came off their bye after a lot of questions being asked about them, and they just spanked Carolina. Was it 40-9? I think it was. Then you got Washington, which is problematic just because of the presence of Jalen Daniels, who's not playing tomorrow night when they face the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you have the bye. So I do think the Dolphins have enough ability to win some games. Let me make it as generic as possible. To win some games down the stretch, they have the ability to go on a run. Again, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment that's coming off this one game against Atlanta when it did look really good.
It's tough because, those are, I know that the Ravens haven't played well this year, but assuming Lamar Jackson plays on Thursday, that's a good football team. Generally speaking, they've been really beat up, but they're getting healthier on both sides of the ball. Their defense played pretty well today against the Bears. Look, it's the Bears, but, the Dolphins aren't exactly world beaters either. So that's good. That'll be a tough game, quick turnaround, a healthy Lamar Jackson. That's tough. That's a tough spot for them. And then, the old nemesis Buffalo comes to town. Look, they're a better team than Miami. So Miami's going to have to punch up. That's going to be an upset opportunity for them. You don't expect them to win that game. Can they win that game? Yeah, sure. They could. Yeah, absolutely. They played them tough in Buffalo earlier this year. So I can they win that game? Yeah, sure. But you don't expect them to win that game. Washington, we're going to learn a lot about Washington in the next couple of weeks. They're kind of on the fringe of their season, not really being what they want it to be right now, given all the injuries that they've had. So we'll see what both teams look like going into Madrid. But that's a tough 3-game stretch. If those teams are healthy, you're going to face Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Jaden Daniels in 3 straight weeks. That's tough. That is really tough. And I think if you look at the back half of the schedule, you also have the Bengals, who epically blew a lead to the Jets today, but they're better with Joe Flacco than they were with Jake Browning offensively. Defensively, no idea what they got going on there. Not the point. The Steelers are probably a little bit better than people thought they'd be. We'll see what they look like tonight on Sunday Night Football against the Packers, but currently they lead that division. So it's going to be tough down the stretch, I think, to pull out the number of wins, because you've left yourself no room for error.
Right.
You lose to Baltimore on Thursday in, 3 days or whatever it is, you're 2-7. You're like, that's not great. You could beat Buffalo, beat Washington. You're still 4-7. That's not great. There's not a lot of room for error here. So it's going to be tough.
But this is why that game you mentioned with the Bengals and the Jets is why this notion of you can pencil in some stuff, you can't do it, because
that's right.
Who really, after what happened in New York all week with the mystery and the comments from owner Woody Johnson about Justin Fields, tough to win games when you can't complete a pass. And then Aaron Glenn's telling the media, I'm not telling you, I know who's starting, but I'm not telling you. And then it leaks out, and eventually, it's going to be Justin Fields because Tyrod Taylor's hurt. And the Jets, guess what? 502 yards today.
Good for Justin Fields, man.
Like anybody,
Good for him.
Like anybody could see that coming. And by the way, this pertains to the Dolphins. I'm sorry, but it's almost hilarious that the Bengals go out and get Joe Flacco, so they have good quarterbacking, so they can remain competitive, hoping that Joe Burrow comes back late in the season, and they lose 39-38 because their defense can't stop a cold. And then guess what? Guess it wasn't Lou Anarumo, former Dolphins assistant coach, who was the problem in Cincinnati, even though he was scapegoated and now is working his magic with the Indianapolis Colts. So just wow. Okay, I guess we are going to just a good a moment as no. Let's look at the game book real quickly, see if there are any numbers that jump out, and then we'll head to the comments over here as we always do here. Dolphins held Atlanta to 213 yards, and just talk about how game situations sometimes matter. Dolphins actually held Cleveland to fewer yards than that, except they gave them 4 turnovers. So you got what you got. But in terms of individual stats, yeah, 238.6 passer rating. That'll work. And Jalen Waddle yards short of 99 yards. And Reed, by the way, the Dolphins won because Kevin Harlan was calling the game. And there goes Waddle.
That's the biggest X factor right there. That's the only stat you need. That's the only analytics you need. Is Kevin Harlan in the booth? Yes or no?
And by the way, not that it relates to the Dolphins, but the tush push still sucks. Get it out of the NFL already. Anyway, for those not familiar, there was a play today where they decided to rule forward progress, had been stopped very quickly right before or at the time where Jalen Hurts got stripped of the ball by the Giants because, of course, God forbid, we don't want to penalize the Eagles. Oops, did I say that out loud? Enough. Get rid of it. Okay. On to the comments. And shockingly enough, we don't have as many people as we normally would do out here. And we appreciate every single one of you who has joined us on this day. Love you guys. But when they lose, there's more people. It never fails. No, B1. We love Noel. Can we thank you for the donation? Oh, much appreciated. Can we give to a pink eye and a visor next week too? I hope he doesn't have pink eye. The whole team's going to have it now. So
they can all get visors then.
There you go.
Problem solved.
Yankee Lover, thank you very much for the donation. Are Grant and Janu good? Is that Jonah you mean? Are they good? Still too early to determine. Grant, by all accounts, had a decent game. Kevin Harlan kept calling out Jonas Savaiinaia for some good blocks, and I was like,
I don't know.
It's not just me. Thank you. It's not just me.
I'm skeptical.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see. I always find it hard to comment on the offensive line without watching the game back because I feel like I have to like rewind so many times. But like on the because he did it on the touchdown pass to Malik Washington, right? Kevin Harlan was like, great block by Jonah, and he's like 5 yards in the backfield.
Yeah.
He's just like getting pushed 5 yards in the backfield. I have no idea if he played great or not. But on that play, I just remember like Kevin Harlan being like, great block by Jonah. And I'm just like, dude, the only reason Tua is outside the pocket right now is because Jonah's 5 yards into his lap. So I don't know about that. We'll have to see what the tape says about that one.
Yeah, he had another one where it's an Ollie Gordon run up the middle, and Gordon wound up tangling over him. And it's like, well, Jonah's supposed to be pulling. So, and he hadn't gotten to a defender just yet. And he wound up okay, so where's the block there? I don't know. But yeah, Dante's going to look at the film and exactly, and I'll look at the game myself and I'll give it another look to see what was what. Let's put it this way: there was no glaring negative play. That
is true. That is true. We were due for a weekly whiff in Pass Pro, and we didn't get it this week, so that's good. It's progress.
It's progress. John C., thank you very much for the donation, John. Much appreciated. We ran the ball on second down more than we passed. It's a thing of beauty. Very few bubble screens. Defense had time to rest, which improved their play. Okay.
Probably.
All valid. Birthday Salami. Thank you, Birthday. We should mention the injuries because he's talking about. I have no idea why that Rasul Douglas came up to mind. But anyway, some injuries to monitor because the Dolphins play Thursday. And you mentioned Julian Hill not playing. Generally speaking, I'm not saying it's a lock, but generally speaking, if you do not practice the week before a Sunday game and you got a game the following Thursday, generally speaking, that guy's not playing on Thursday. So I would not count on Julian Hill playing against the Ravens. We also got Minkah Fitzpatrick, who hurt a thumb late in the game. Don't know how severe that could be. Generally speaking, a lot of times you could see if it, depending on the severity of it, he could wind up with a cast or some kind of device to protect him. Storm Duck carted off the field with a knee injury. Dude was playing his first game since week 1. Had been on IR not on IR, but had been sidelined, inactive every week because of an ankle injury. And D. Eskridge left the game in the first quarter, I think it was, with a shoulder injury and never came back. So those obviously will be things to monitor. It's a very short week. There's no real practice this week. It's walkthrough city because of the Thursday night game. So Birthday Salami, thank you very much for the donation. Rasul and OG2 best pickups this year. Short run situation improved, and outside of Panthers loss, Rasul has done an underrated job. Rasul Douglas has actually been very good. By the way, though, sorry folks, you can't have your hand on the receiver's arm like this for 3 seconds and not expect to be called for DPI. Sorry, I know I got some pushback on that, telling me then that's a no call. It's a no call. Okay, sorry, but
yeah, I don't know. I just assume they're going to call DPI on every play at this point. I'm not going to lie. So, I mean, he definitely had the arm. Whether you want to call it incidental contact or not, I don't care. He had the arm, but he's been good this year, I think, in general, right, is the point. Douglas has been good. Yeah, Douglas has been good this year. And I think, Ali Gordon's a really good piece of the puzzle on offense. I think a small piece of the puzzle, but a good one, an important one that you didn't have in previous seasons, and one that you should continue to use more often instead of not using him.
Yeah, no, he's very productive. I think the Dolphins are like, I don't know, something like 13 for 15 maybe on 3rd and 1 this year. What were they last year? They were brutal. So that's been a major improvement, big time. And Rasul has been, like you said, has been very good. By the way, the Dolphins got 2 defensive pass interference that helped them against that one that hurt them. So if we would Dolphin fans, we prefer we never call DPI or we call them when it's there. I mean, that was a penalty on Douglas. Sorry. So just like the one against Waddle, dude clearly like basically they collided at a spot, but then the guy's grabbing Waddle's jersey. It's like in the open field. Clear penalty, and the one on Cedric Wilson at the end as well. Josh Smith, thank you for the donation. This was a complete game. All phases of their job, absolutely, without question. John C., thank you very much. Was Gordon okay? I saw where he looked tweaked, and after that, it was Jalen Wright. Hope Gordon is good. So very good. I don't recall seeing him with any sort of issue, and I don't believe there was any injury reported in the press box.
Yeah, I didn't see anything either. I think they just went to Jalen Wright because it was garbage time, and they wanted to give him some love. I think that's all it was. Yeah,
you're reducing carries. He hadn't carried the ball all year. Got 9 carries today. So
yeah.
Noel again. Thank you, Noel. I think Brooks should get the game ball. He was everywhere today.
Yeah, he was awesome. He was so good. He was great.
Somebody asked that question: is who's going to be on the elevator tomorrow? Because it could be Tua with 4 touchdown passes. It could be any one of the 4 touchdown receptions. I think Malik Washington's touchdown catch near the pylon in traffic. I think if I had to guess, it's not necessarily reflective of the player of the game, but also what was the best visual.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if anything.
It was a cool catch. It feels like it might qualify, or maybe a sack. If they got like a good photo of a sack, maybe or a TFL.
Jordan Brooks had the only sack, so
yeah,
that would be the one. Ian Mason, thank you very much, Ian. Much appreciated. So 8, 9, 9, and 8. Here we come. Mid-round draft pick and no changes to front office coaching status quo. Right on track. Awesome. By the way, by awesome, do I detect just a hint of sarcasm there, dude? So you prefer 3 and 14 and have the 3rd overall pick? By the way, I wrote a column last week at MiamiDolphins.com, which was basically could and should Mike McDaniel last the whole season. And in there, I threw the possibility that I would not be floored if he wound up coming back, if the Dolphins make a little bit of a run in the second half, even if it doesn't produce a playoff spot.
That would be interesting. That would be tough to defend, that for sure. But this team never fails to surprise me. So, you can't really rule it out. As far as the question here is like, I get it as a draft person. I understand why you're thinking ahead, right? A win against Atlanta in week 8 is very unlikely to save the season. Would you rather have the 3rd pick as opposed to a pick if you do make a run and you're 8-9, you miss the playoffs and you're, 13th again or 14th or whatever it ends up being? Yeah, you'd rather have the 3rd pick. And I understand that impulse, but I think at least on Sunday, take some time, go outside, enjoy the win, take some fresh air. And then on Monday, we can start talking about, okay, what are we looking at for the future? Blah, 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 blah. I get it. But, look, They won today. I'm assuming you're a Dolphins fan. Soak it up. I don't know how many more wins you're going to get this year because I still don't think the team's very good, but they played really well today. And I think it's okay to enjoy that and be happy about that, and also acknowledge that the team probably needs a high draft pick to infuse some talent into a roster that doesn't have a ton of long-term pieces. I think both things can be true.
Except this is where I would point out that it's not like it's impossible to get a really good player, even if you don't have a top 5 pick. I mean, and it doesn't work. TJ Watt, for example, I think was the 30th overall pick. I hate to bring up that point in 2017 when the Dolphins picked somebody else to rush the passer 9 spots before him. So
sure, but your odds of getting a good player go up significantly the higher pick you have. So,
but to me, unless you're quarterback hunting, get the really good player wherever you get him. Oh,
they're going to be quarterback hunting, man.
You sure about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they should be, unless there's some miraculous turnaround. Yes. Yes.
Julian Vivas, thank you very much for the donation, the contribution. Much appreciated. Will Zach Wilson be QB2 from now on? Also, will Zach Wilson get re-signed by the Dolphins in the offseason? Mike McDaniel was not asked about Zach Wilson and the battle for the number 2 spot. After the game, he had said last week it was his hope that whoever won the job would make it clear that he needed to be the guy for the rest of the season. I don't know that that's happened. Might be asked about that on Monday. Will he be re-signed in the offseason? I have a hard time seeing that. I think the move would be to Quinn Ewers, which is why once this season becomes officially over in terms of playoff, hope, this is where you need to turn to Quinn Ewers to see if that guy can be your number 2 next year.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on all fronts. I have no idea what they're doing with the QB2 thing. Doesn't make any sense to me. The public answer that Mike gave last week did not make any sense to me in the slightest bit, especially given that it switched immediately after a week. Or you're really they're that close in camp. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And frankly, I don't know that it matters a ton. And I don't think Zach's going to be back next year.
No, and the other part of it too, if we're going to be honest about it, if something happens to Tua, you're going to see the offense experience a drop-off.
No, they're cooked. Yeah,
the operation is not going to look the same, again, because it's a very Tua-centric offense, and he's the one who gets all the reps. And as it stands right now, I don't know that we can expect either one of those to be high-functioning backup quarterbacks. They'd be better than Tyler Huntley, Skylar Thompson, Tim Boyle circa 2024. Maybe. That's a pretty low bar, though.
That is a low bar.
Yeah. Diedrich, thank you very much for the donation, partner. I propose a theory that Tua was Ross's pick. He wanted Lamar, who's now reigning MVP, and Minka was taken instead, is now a Steeler. Well, no, he's not a Steeler. He's back with the Dolphins. Could 2020 be when he put his foot down? Explains Greer's job security. Yeah, no, that was brought up before. That's going to be a very, very well-kept secret. Nobody's going to say anything. I don't think you're crazy to suggest that. I really don't. I truly don't. I don't think Brian Flores was a big fan of Tua's coming out of Alabama. Certainly doesn't fit the prototype of, again, your standard NFL quarterback. I wish I could tell you I know for sure. I don't know for sure. I've had my suspicion that it was semi-Ross driven, but that's all it is. Care to chime in? No,
I don't. We'll never know. I don't know. I know it wasn't Brian Flores for sure. That's the only thing I'm 100% sure about. He's made that abundantly clear. Both when he was with the Dolphins and not with the Dolphins. But I don't know if that was a Ross thing or, whatever it ended up being, but it definitely was not the head coach. That's all I know.
Yeah, and I can tell you the Dolphins, and I think Chris Greer also had a very strong leaning toward anything Nick Saban related. It is, however, important to remember that the Dolphins offered, I think it was 3 first-round picks to the Bengals to get Joe Burrow. So it wasn't necessarily that it was for them Tua or bust, but it may have been that once they realized the Bengals were not going to budge and they couldn't get their hands on Burrow, then Tua was the guy they needed to have. So that's the best I can tell you. Birthday salami again. Thank you, sir. Very much appreciated. Need to see McD stick to the run versus Baltimore to believe it's a true change in play style that he alluded to last Sunday. Again, the thing with that, and I get it from fans all the time, Dolphins got to stick to the run game, got to stick to the run game, that's the run game. The game circumstances also will dictate. There are certain games, and it's not just the score being close. You kind of get a feel pretty early for kind of sort of how many points you're going to need. And generally speaking, you have to be comfortable that it's not going to be a shootout, that you're going to get some stops defensively to run more, because running more is, again, obviously if you can score on every drive doing nothing but running, that's obviously the best scenario because you're not taking as many chances and all that, but that's not realistic. Generally speaking, if you focus on the run a whole lot more, that kind of suggests a sacrifice of big playability and maybe even scoring, pardon me, which again makes it incumbent upon figuring out what kind of game we're looking at. Does that make any sense?
I think I understand what you're saying. I think for me, so the struggle that I have is I think the Dolphins tend to abandon the running game before they have a good grasp on what they can actually do. I feel like over the years, it's been a couple of runs don't work out and they just get very pass happy. They are not the football team that is going to win that way. That right now, they're not. They are not going to be a team that's going to win through the air like they did in 2022 and 2023. They have to have some kind of a balance. They have to have some kind of a run threat. And you can use the pass to set up the run. You can use the run to set up the pass, depending on how you call your plays, how you sequence things, what types of formations that you use. But you don't have Tyreek Hill. You only have Jalen Waddle, really, and you have some guys around him who can make some okay plays in the passing game. I don't think Tua has been one of the Dolphins' biggest issues this year. I also think that he's taken a bit of a step back, generally speaking, this season, as far as body of work is concerned. He's still fine. I don't think he's a bad quarterback or anything. But to me, I think the Dolphins really do have the personnel, the opportunity, and the creativity to be a team that runs the ball at a high volume and that become their identity. I think that they have that. And so when you go into these games, they could have easily gotten away from the running game today. As you mentioned, 3.8 yards per carry is nothing crazy, but they stuck with it and they got big runs when they needed some big runs. And that's kind of how the running game goes for most teams. You're going to have some plays that you miss a block and it's a neg, and you hit a couple blocks and you're going to get 12 yards. You kind of have to live with the ebb and flow. But to me, what's frustrated me the most is that this is a team that I think has the personnel to be a run-first team and just refuses to do it, even when they are having success on the ground, generally speaking. And I think that they cannot think of themselves like the 2022 and 2023 Dolphins, because they're not. And they're not going to get back to that. It's not happening. They need to do something different.
No, that's fair. But again, like today, for example, what do we got here? 37 rushing attempts, 27 passes. Of course, there was a lot of garbage time in there as well.
I was closer to a 50-50 split before garbage time, correct. which is fine. I'm good with that. That's good, but it's not usually a 50-50 split.
No, but again, they're usually not this dominant on defense.
No.
Maybe they will be moving forward. Who knows? Ian, again, thank you very much, Ian. It's not as much about the pick as it is the fear of Greg McDaniel staying in place for another year and waste another season. I hear you, Ian. You trust me, you're not the only one who feels that way.
That's valid. It's a valid way to feel. I understand. They're still 2-6. This is still not a good football team. It's a step in the right direction for sure. And this team has ability 100%, but this is still a team, I think, set to make some changes, some big changes over the offseason right now, even at 2-6. They go on a huge run here. Obviously, yeah, that could change, but I don't think there's, it's only one win. It's only one game. You played a Falcons team that, like, frankly, I don't think is very good and is also injured. So there you go.
Well, yeah, the Falcons were missing. I mean, they're missing their starting quarterback. They're missing their best wide receiver. They're missing their best inside linebacker.
Best pass rusher also out today. Zach Harrison led them in sacks, did not play.
Plus their first round pick, Jalen Walker. So yeah, no, but and that's who you play. It's not like the Dolphins don't have injuries as well. Okay, let's see what we got over here. There we go. Hold on, we got another one here. Toby, thank you very much. Dante rocking a Babe Ruth haircut, fins up.
Wish I could hit the ball like Babe Ruth, man. That would be cool.
Funny.
So do you root for the Blue Jays?
I've gotten that question quite. But by the way, for folks who keep asking me this, yes, I have seen the documentary "Who Killed the Montreal Expos." Like I wouldn't be on top of it from the beginning, and it was interesting. The thing is that I have read so much about the demise of the Expos and seen other documentaries before that there wasn't a whole lot of new ground. In fact, there probably was no new ground. Still was interesting to see anyway. But yes, I would root for the Blue Jays. Certainly not to the same degree I would root for the Expos if they were ever to take the team back, which probably is not happening. So let's go with some more comments over here. Here we go. Big O just called Poupart a hater. He can do whatever the hell he wants. Who cares? Like seriously.
Oh man.
I just brought it up. I'm not even going to dignify that with a reply. Good for him. Travis Thomas, good thing the Jets won. These people about to mess up the number one overall pick, fire everyone immediately, Ross. They're not going to get the number one pick if it's not. Trust me, the New Orleans Saints are really, really rough. The Tennessee Titans are really, really bad. And the Jets are still a bad team.
Yeah.
Hope nobody bet their kids' college fund on the Falcons this week. Nobody should ever do that, period. J Live Doso Tua plays better with one eye.
I mean, the analytics are undeniable on that. That 0 turnover worthy plays, 4 touchdowns with only one eye. It's hard to deny the analytics.
Professional launcher, that beat writer from Atlanta was wrong. Dolphins Nation was deep. Yeah, that would be Scott Kennedy, who's the publisher for Falcons on SI. Yeah, I think he underestimated the Dolphins traveling a bit. It's not like Atlanta has a really strong fan base at home. We're going to be honest about it. And Dolphins, there are several stadiums where they travel really, really well. Atlanta's one of them. Southern California is another one of them. But no, I'm not surprised. Yeah, there was a strong presence there. What do we got? No, not doing cross podcast talks over here. So leave T defense talk out of it. We'll deal with him on the Dolphins Collective when we reconvene Tuesday evening. Omar or Doug Lee do wrong. Okay. And certainly not Big O, who's got his own podcast. Good for him. Yeah. R.I.P. Nick Mangold. Absolutely brutal.
Just horrible.
Yeah. Died at 41 years old. This was 12 days after he put out something on social media indicating that he needed a kidney transplant. So absolutely brutal. R.I.P. Nick Mangold. Worst fans in the league blackballed the Falcons or Falcons or Dolphins?
We'll never know.
Jeff, got you all in the background working on the aquarium. Get your butt over here, Jeff, and again, get involved, will you? That's my buddy Jeff over here. What else we got now? Alan, if D and receivers do their part, Tua was never the problem against good Ds except the one Houston game. Tua was not good against Green Bay. Going back to last year. And again, the Houston game, I would give him – he was missing the 2 starting offensive tackles. That game was not an easy spot.
That was the Jackson Carman game, which
correct.
Not great. Not where you want to be.
But it goes to me to what I've said about Tua from the start. So for those, including those who would want to decide that I'm a Tua hater, that if the circumstances around him are good, Tua will deliver. But he will not He will not accomplish a ton without the help around him. Again, every quarterback needs help. I get this. But he needs to a higher degree than other quarterbacks. It's that simple. And certainly not to the degree of the salary that he got, to where next year's contract carries a cap number of $54 million, and there's no way around it. Matt, thank you very much, Matt. I know it is probably not good, but winning feels better than tanking. Thanks for the streams. Thank you, Matt. Yeah.
No, I mean, like I said earlier, right? I think you can enjoy the win in the moment, and you can also acknowledge that maybe the team's better off with a higher pick. I think you can do both, and that's where I think Dolphins fans are going to be for a lot of the season, barring they rip off a couple of big wins here against really good quarterbacks in the next 3 weeks.
And are we so sure that if the Dolphins were to tank, or whatever you want to call it, that they'd be better off next year than if they were to finish out the season and try to be as competitive as possible on a weekly basis? Are we so sure? I'm not. And again, it's a different thing. Like, for example, when we were in 2019 and the Dolphins made the switch from from Josh Rosen to Ryan Fitzpatrick, I was like, what the hell are we doing? And mind you, I was working on the Dolphins website at the time for Dolphins.com. So it's not like I could say anything at all. This is before the following years when I started as publisher of Miami Dolphins on SI. Trust me, I'd have screamed it from the top of my lungs. What are we doing here? Because you have it. It's not only you just traded a 2 and a 5 for a quarterback who is clearly not it, but he's a second-year quarterback who was a 10th overall pick. You tell me you don't have the justification to put it out there. We need to see what we have in Josh Rosen. When you know damn well that Ryan Fitzpatrick is a much better quarterback, gives you a much better chance to win, which in this particular case makes zero sense when you're churning over the roster. This is not the same situation.
It's a little bit different, for sure. Yeah. I mean, this group is trying to save their jobs, right?
No.
Like that's the difference between that group and this group. This team, there's such thing as ethical tanking. That's not even where this group is going to be. This group is in full. We are trying to win every single football game that we possibly can to save our job mode. Whether you think that the Dolphins should tank or not is up to you. I have my opinion. It doesn't really matter, though, because the Dolphins Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer need their jobs. And the only way they keep their jobs is if they win, 9-10 games this year, probably, and either are sneak into the playoffs or are close enough that Stephen Ross doesn't want to make a change. That's their only chance. So we can talk about the benefits of tanking all we want. It's not going to happen unless something drastic happens in the middle of the year where everybody gets fired, and that's not going to happen. So.
Or would Dolphin fans be happy with the idea of Stephen Ross telling Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer, okay, you're back for next season, but we need to tank to get as high a draft pick as possible? Would that work for you guys, or not acceptable?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
I would not. I don't like that. No.
No, but so the other part of it is as long as Mike McDaniel's the head coach, if he's fighting for his job, he's going to do everything he can to win.
Yeah, no, for sure, and he should. Yeah, he absolutely should.
Ooh, Toby, thank you very much, sir. Any truth to the rumor that come on, Toby.
No.
Come on. No, I can't even read. Any truth to the rumor to his father popped him in the eye to snap him out of his funk. Come on, Toby. I get it, but I don't get it. Okay. Hold on back here. Whoop. This is an interesting one here, J Live. Though, with the way Riley Patterson is playing, what does that mean for Jason Sanders? It means Jason Sanders is going to be designated for return the second he's healthy enough, and will be doing the kicking. Because Riley Patterson's really good. Jason Sanders is better.
Right. It's good for Riley Patterson. Wasn't in the league for a bit. I'm assuming he'll get some calls whenever the Dolphins go back to Jason Sanders. So good for Riley Patterson. He's done a nice job. He's 10 of 11 now.
Yeah, he's missed one kick.
Yeah, 10 of 11. So pretty good. Good for him. We questioned the decision because the previous numbers were not great. Looks like a great call by Craig Aukerman and company. So good stuff all around.
No, correct. And the one miss is from 57. So, and Jason Sanders last year was lights out from 50 and over. So, What do we got here? Hold on. No, Bigos. I did see a few missed blocking assignments. Then again, I'm a hater, I think. We're all haters, aren't we?
We should be.
Yeah. Let's see what we got here. David, does this increase Tua's trade value? No.
Well, I mean, it does, but he's not going to get traded. It increases his trade value, technically. And playing better makes him more valuable, right? But he's not going to get traded at all. So it doesn't matter.
The problem with Tua is a team automatically has to take on this guaranteed base salary of $39 million, plus I think it's an option bonus of like, I think it's $8 million for next year. You're looking at a commitment of $47 million for next year.
He's not getting traded. He's not getting traded.
No, there's not going to be a market for him. No. And again, and it would have to be, and whatever, if there were ever to be a market, it would be a very specific market, either a warm weather team or in a dome.
All right, here's a fun question for you, because we're basically filling dead air here anyway. What would you take for Tua in a hypothetical where you had interested parties? What compensation would you say, okay, I'm willing to move off of Tua?
If I'm doing a reset, it'd basically be anything, to be honest with you, because the idea is to get the cap number off the books, and you reduce it significantly with a trade. It was in a column in The Athletic who was suggesting maybe the Dolphins should consider doing what the Cleveland Browns did. What Houston did with Brock Osweiler, where they threw a second-round pick in there too, to get a fourth in return, just to convince a team. If the Dolphins do decide to move on from Tua because of his cap number and because of the fact that they feel it's time for a change of scenery from both ends, it's not about what you can get in a trade. It's about being able to get rid of the contract.
Yeah, I think that's fair, right? I think that's fair. I don't think the Osweiler thing's like too realistic, but it's interesting to think about, right? As what could possibly incentivize a team to take that contract from you. That feels like one of the few things maybe that could get them there.
And the two differences there were Tua was a hell of a lot better quarterback than Brock Osweiler ever was.
A very, very big agree. Yes.
And his contract is also a lot more significant than that of Osweiler. So Ricky wants to point out that the two TD to Waddle was good too.
It was, yeah. Great throw.
Yeah. No argument there. Call of Duty one. That's funny. This was the best performance this year. I'm glad I went to the game from New Jersey. Why haven't we seen this team this season? Because they're not good enough to do this on a regular basis. I was like, it's almost, yeah. That's why can't they do this every week? Because they can't. If they could, they would. It's like, and they were playing an opponent that was ripe to get their ass kicked, and they kicked their ass if they were on point, and they were completely on point. Baltimore presents a different set of challenges because immediately Lamar Jackson, let's just say, maybe slightly better quarterback than Kirk Cousins.
Just a bit.
We shall see. I don't know about their defense yet right now. By all accounts, they played better today, but and I know they got a couple of their guys back. I know Roquan Smith's been back for a couple of weeks. I don't know if Marlon Humphrey was out. And actually, let me look up their game book here. So they were missing. No, Marlon Humphrey was back also. So see, they're getting guys back. Defender Kyle Van Noy, who's missed sometime, is back also. So it's more of their regular defense. So we shall see what that looks like. That's going to be if the Dolphins can win against Baltimore, then they have to be as dominant a performance as we saw against the Ravens, but that would obviously be very significant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or maybe it wouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the problem though, right? Because you're still like, you win that game and it's like, oh, cool, now we're 3-6, which is better than 2-7, but like you're still 3-6. Like the hole that they have dug themselves is just so deep. It's hard to get excited about like any individual run. Like even when we talked about like the rest of the schedule earlier, like let's say they take 2 out of 3 against Washington and Buffalo. That's probably pretty good, but you take 2 out of 3 there, you're 4-7. Not great.
Yep. What we got? Patrick Paul looked good again. Yeah, man, he looks good when he goes out when he's leading the way on a run.
He can move. He really can move.
11 turnovers is sort of the problem. Let's be real. He wasn't the only reason. The biggest being the defense, but making $50 million or whatever, he wasn't the solution either.
I mean, he's regressed for sure. But again, if I think about the biggest reasons, the most active things contributing to the Dolphins' losses this year, to me, outside of the Cleveland game, I don't think Tua was one of the biggest reasons. He's not a solution either. And I think that goes back to what we've talked about on the entire show about where Tua sits in the quarterback hierarchy as far as needing a lot of things around him to be good, to be at his best. And that's just is who he is.
No, correct. And well, to me, if it's like, and then again, it just might get too micro specific, is if you look at why the Dolphins are 2-6, number one, you probably could go to defense. Number two, to me, the inability to come up with a big play at the end of the game. But that's why is that? And part of that, not all of it, but part of it was Tua. But he had also good stretches where he played well. And for example, against the Chargers, he had a stretch. That third quarter was a joke. Dolphins had one possession in the third quarter. So I know people are going to go nuts over this. But he led to two scoring drives in the fourth quarter, and then the defense couldn't hold it. And then against Carolina, where he played well pretty much the whole game, at the end had a really bad last possession, and that Dolphins never saw the ball again. So it was never, unlike some other media members who shall remain nameless, it was never all to his fault. Just like today wasn't all to was doing the fact that the Dolphins won. He was, again, he is more of a complimentary quarterback than he is a difference-making quarterback. But then again, there are not a ton of those. You can make that same point for a lot of different quarterbacks. And on that note, I think I pissed off enough people here. We're going to close out with Toby. Toby, thank you very much for the donation. How much did Savai's family pay the announcers for all the compliments? They made him sound like he was an all-pro. Yeah, it was quite nice of Kevin Harlan to like.
Good for Jonah. He's had a tough year. Good for him.
No, yeah, he's taken enough shots all year.
Yeah, good for him.
We will not begrudge him that. Okay, and any progress needs to happen. So
yeah.
We shall see. That's going to wrap it up. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on this Sunday, a victorious Sunday. Dolphins moving to 2-6 on the season with a 34-10 victory against the Atlanta Falcons. He is Dante Collinelli, deputy editor of Miami Dolphins on his site. Check out his fine content at the website, MiamiDolphinsOnHisSite.com, all for free. I have some content as well. As for the podcast, please like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, get that subscriber base up. It's good for the algorithm, I'm told. So that's going to do it. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.